So almost all the statements are over. And after that, the next step we learn functions, right? So in generic select statement, we missed two clauses, right? Group by clause and having clause. So we learned that, and then we'll go to the next topic. Okay. So group by clause and having clause. Which are the clauses that we already learned? Where clause, like clause, distinct, limit, right? So all these things are clear. So in generic select statement, what was the order? Do you remember? Select, select list, from table list, then where, after that where, right? So select, select list, then from table list, after that where condition, then no, group by, then having, then order by, right? Isn't it? Isn't it? Select list. So in this where is over, order by we learn, group by and having we have to learn, right? So again, where and like, when I am explaining like, I told with where clause only we can use like clause, right? If where is not there, I cannot use like, right? So with where only we will be using like. So just like that, group by and having, we have to use it together. If group by is not present, we cannot use having. So having is just like which comes after where. So having we can use only after group by. So if group by you are not using, you cannot use having. So having will come only after group by clause. But group by you can use whether having is there or not. So we learn how to use group by clause. So using group by, we can group the data present in a table based on some conditions. Okay. So we can group the data present in a table based on, based on one or more columns, not conditions, based on few columns. So to group the data based on few columns, it can be one particular column or more than one column. So to group the data, we are using group by clause. So in the syntax, there is a small difference. You have to remember this. So select, in the select list, normally what will be there in the select list? It can be any column name or any column name associated with aggregate functions, right? Max of age, min of age, anything like that. Otherwise, any functions, whatever it is. So in group by, in the select list, there is some condition. So you can use the column names only if it is in the group by clause condition. Otherwise, it should be linked with the aggregate functions. So if I simply say like this, it will be confusing. We'll complete the syntax and then we'll explain it again. So select, in the select list, it should be the column names used in the group by clause or the columns linked with the aggregate function. After that, select list, then from table name. So after from table name, if you have any where condition, you can use that. Otherwise, group by column 1, column 2, etc. We are grouping the data based on one or more columns. So based on which column you want to group the data, that column name you have to write after the group by clause. So here, whichever column you are writing over here, this column only you have to use in the select list. Okay. So the columns linked with the associated with the group by condition, group by clause, only you can use it in the select list. That is one condition. Otherwise, it should be linked with the aggregate function, that is min of, max of. Aggregate functions, we have 5 functions, right? So any one function we have to use with the column. Then only we can use it in the select list. So the same thing I will explain. So just understand, group by, using group by clause, we can group the data based on one or more column. So the based on one or more column, based on which column we want to group the data, that you have to specify or write after the group by clause. So select list. In the select list, we can use only the column names which is used in group by or is linked with the aggregate function. From table name, group by, group list. So here the columns must be either present in the group by clause or it should be present in the aggregate function, right? So how it works, we'll see. See, select, for example, I'm just consider C1, C2, C3 are the columns present in a table. So select C1, C2 from our table name is T1, group by C1, C2. So here you check in the select list, how many columns are there? 2 columns, C1 and C2. Is C1 and C2 present in the group by list? C1 and C2 both are there in the group by list, right? So will it work or not? It will work. Clear? So in the select list, whichever columns are specified written, it should be there in the group by list. So this is a correct syntax. Next, select C1, C2 from T1, group by C1, C2, C3. Here, will it work? Is it correct or not? In select list, I have C1 and C2. In group by list, I have C1, C2 and C3 also. But whichever columns present in the select list, it is there in the group by list. So is it correct or not? It is correct. But what happens if it is a reverse? Select C1, C2, C3 from T1, group by C1, C2. Is this correct or not? It is not correct because C1 is present, fine. C2 is present, it's okay. But what about C3? C3 is not there in the select list, right? So it is wrong. Clear how to select columns in the select list? So whichever columns in the select list, it must be there in the group by list. Otherwise, it should be used with the aggregate function that will come. So this is correct, right? What about this one? Select C1, C2, average of C3 from T1, group by C1, C2. So now we'll check C1. C1 is present in the group by list. C2 is also present in the group by list. C3 is not present in the group by list, but check here, C3 is associated with aggregate function, right? So column C3 is associated with the aggregate function. So is it correct or not? This is correct. It will work. Clear? So how to choose the select list columns in if group by is present? Online people? So is the group by syntax, is it clear? So this is correct, right? So now we'll see how group by works with an example. Then it will become more clear. So we have our patient table with 5 columns: patient ID, F name, L name, age and blood group. Now I am going to select the blood group column values from patient. I want to group the BG. So I want to group by BG column. So how to write the query? Select BG from patient, group by BG. That's all. Group by BG, right? So grouping, and here check my select list. BG column is there in the select list and BG column is there in the group by list also. So my query, is it correct or not? It is correct, right? So now we'll see how it works. So when I execute this query, where will it go? It will go to storage engine, right? And storage engine will check the group by clause, group by column will work first. Okay. So here blood group column values it will check. What is the first blood group column value? O positive. Is there any other O positive values there in the column? We have, right? So here for patient ID 1 and patient ID 4, these 2 records blood group is O positive. So those 2 records will be fetched. Do we have any other record? No. For O positive only 2 records. Those 2 records will be fetched and will be stored in the intermediate result set. Because our group by grouping is not over, right? We have many other blood groups also. So O positive is group. Now it will check the next one, O negative. So how many records are there with O negative blood group? How many patients are there with O negative blood group? 2, right? Patient ID 2 and again patient ID 2. So all the records whose blood group is O negative, it will be fetched and it will be stored in the second intermediate result set. So how many intermediate result set will be created? How many blood groups are there? That much intermediate result set will be created. So O positive is done. O negative is also over. Next, B negative, right? So how many records are there? B negative, 4 records are there. So all the 4 records will be fetched and will be stored in the intermediate result set 3. So B negative is over. Next, what we have? We have a B positive record, only 1 record, right? So that 1 record will be fetched and will be stored in the intermediate result set. Okay. So based on the blood group column values, our patient record is grouped. Right? 4 different blood groups are there. So 4 different intermediate result set is created. It is grouped. Now the select statement will work. What is our condition? What we want to display? We want to display only BG column values. after grouping, right? Now the grouping part is done. Now I want to display the BG. So should I display all the O positive, O negative like this? No. From each intermediate result set, only one value is needed, right? Because O positive, it is duplicate copies. I don't want the duplicate copies. So from each intermediate result set, one BG value will be sent to the final result set. Okay. So here in the final result set, what will be there? O positive, O negative. Then from the third intermediate result set, B negative. From the fourth intermediate result set, B positive. So this will be our final result set. In our final result set, only the blood groups, distinct values. It is similar to distinct, right? Duplicate copies are not there. So like this, group by class will work. So internally, how it works, is it clear? I know it will be a bit confusing. We'll explain it again, but for now, is it clear? So group by and the working of group by. So we'll make group by clear and then we'll go to having. Okay. So for today, it's enough. Group by and group by internals. Just learn it today itself. Tomorrow we'll revise group by and then we'll go to having close. Clear? Any doubts? Online people? So how group by works? Just learn it today itself. If you have any confusions, tomorrow again I will explain and then we'll go to having clause. So most probably within 2 days you will be having a test on statements. Insert, update, delete statements, where clause and like clause. So everything, just revise it again. Sorry? Tomorrow? Tomorrow test topic. I didn't say that tomorrow is the test. Within 2 days you will be having test. So these are the topics. Insert, update, delete and all. Online people, hope it is clear. I think all are in the festival mood. They are not at all answering. Okay, we'll wind up for today. See you tomorrow. Bye.